I never expected my daughter to give her mother-in-law a 15,000 bag while I got a dish towel. I can still feel the sting of that moment, the way the room held its breath, eyes darting between the gleaming purse and my pathetic kitchen accessory. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was my birthday, a day meant for joy, laughter, and warmth. Instead, the air hung heavy with tension. The smell of cake wafted through the air, sweet yet suffocating. I stood there, trembling hands clutching that dish towel, my mind racing. No one understands. Not really. I had bought gifts too, but they were always overshadowed no matter how hard I tried. Everyone gathered in the living room, a quirky mix of family and friends, all armed with smiles that felt like daggers to my chest. My daughter Sarah stood proudly beside her shiny new mother-in-law, holding the bag as if it were a trophy. My heart broke a little more with each passing second. Her eyes sparkled with excitement as she handed the bag over, the light reflecting off its glossy surface. It screamed luxury. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. The gasps from the crowd echoed like thunder. "It's beautiful," they exclaimed. I stood there, a shadow, feeling invisible. The laughter from the corners of the room felt like nails scraping against my soul. Moments felt like hours. I could hear my own heartbeat, a frantic drum inside my chest. I glanced at Sarah, searching for a flicker of understanding, but she beamed at her mother-in-law, a woman I never really warmed up to. The dish towel was crumpled in my grip, a representation of a lifetime of feeling less than. A lifetime of unsaid words. "Mom, did you see it?" she asked, the excitement ringing in her voice like a bell, but all I could do was nod. My throat tightened. How did we get here? Why did love feel like a competition? There was a moment of heavy silence as eyes shifted back to me. My mother-in-law's smug smile pierced through the chaos. I felt exposed, raw. "What did you get, dear?" she prodded, a thin veneer of sweetness coating her words. I didn't want to answer, didn't want to admit that I had a dish towel that smelled faintly of bleach and despair. A small cough escaped my lips. "Just this," I whispered, my voice barely carrying across the room, but the laughter that followed was deafening. Their glee felt like shards of glass, piercing through the fragile shield I had built around my heart. There was a tremor in my hands as I released that towel, allowing it to fall limp to the ground. I felt the sting of tears pricking at my eyes. Could there be a world where I was more than a footnote in Sarah's big moment? Suddenly, amidst the laughter and chaos, the doorbell rang, cutting through the darkness like a blade. I blinked, my heart racing with a new wave of anxiety. Who could it be? The sound echoed oddly in the air, reverberating with trepidation, as if signaling a change that I dared to hope. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The door creaked open slowly, and in walked Charlie, Sarah's father. His presence felt like a gust of fresh air slicing through the simmering tension. Charlie had always been a calming force, his easy smile a beacon in our chaotic lives. But today, there was something different in his eyes, an uncertainty that mirrored the turmoil churning within me. "Hey everyone. I brought something for the birthday girl," he announced, trying to inject some levity into the dim atmosphere. I caught a glimpse of a small, neatly wrapped box peeking from behind his back. Sarah's face lit up for an instant, her excitement momentarily shifting from her mother-in-law to her dad. A brief flicker of hope that wasn't lost on me. "What is it?" she cried, bounding towards him. I held my breath. Deep down, I longed for this moment to ease the ache of inadequacy that had anchored itself in my chest. Charlie knelt, handing her the box, his eyes twinkling with love. The rest of the room melted away as Sarah tore into the wrapping, the sound of paper crumpling like the discord in my heart. "Open it! Open it!" came the chorus from the family, buoying her spirits. As the lid popped off, my breath caught in my throat. Inside lay a delicate silver bracelet, glimmering with tiny charms that seemed to dance as she lifted it into the light. "Oh wow, Dad! It's beautiful!" Sarah squealed, her voice soaring with delight. I felt that pang again, the sharp wedge of jealousy and disappointment, but deeper down, I recognized something bittersweet in the moment. Wasn't it supposed to be joyous? Why did it feel like my birthday celebration was slipping from my grasp? Sand falling through my fingers. Put it on. Let us see. Her father urged, the excitement infectious. I watched, entranced, as Sarah's fingers glided over the bracelet, endearing yet distant, and I couldn't help but wonder how she could be so oblivious to the hurt the day was drumming up in her own mother's heart. I stood at the edge of the commotion, anchored in my world of unworthiness. The laughter around me mixed with shadows of doubt that haunted my thoughts. There was a flicker of movement beside me, an older family friend, Martha. With gray streaks tearing through her once auburn hair, she approached me with quiet compassion. Hey dear, can I borrow you for a moment? Martha's voice, warm and soft, offered a tether to reality amidst the tumult of chaos. I nodded, and she led me to a quiet corner of the room, away from the swirling laughter. You're feeling overlooked, aren't you? She asked gently, her eyes brimming with understanding. I swallowed hard. It's just a towel, I managed, my voice quaking as I fought back the tide of tears. It isn't about what you received, my dear, she continued, shaking her head slightly. It's about the love and effort you put into things. You are so much more than what is represented by a gift. Her tender words wrapped around my heart, providing warmth in a chill that had long settled in my bones. I feel like I've been discounted all my life to become the lesser version of what everyone expects, a mere afterthought, I confessed, my words trembling on the precipice of despair. We often forget, Martha said, her gaze steady, that love can be found not in extravagance but in the littlest acts, the tiniest gestures. Your worth isn't defined by gifts. It's defined by who you are. A wave of confusion collided with hope, a struggle between wanting to believe those words, while still carrying the weight of my unmet expectations. Martha's presence was like a lifeline, but it couldn't completely drown out the echoes of laughter drifting from the living room. Let us go back, shall we? No use hiding when there's cake, she said, allowing a small smile to sneak through. But as we turned to rejoin the party, mine was followed by another revelation. Sarah, her eyes sparkling even brighter than before, caught sight of her mother-in-law, who had returned, clutching a pristine shopping bag. Look what else we got. Her voice bounded through the air, and before I could brace myself, she pulled out a pair of dazzling earrings, each gem glistening like the stars. Something twisted deep inside me. I shot a glance at Martha, who squeezed my shoulder reassuringly, but a rumbling uncertainty began to unfurl in my gut. Who was I in this moment? Just another spectator, someone watching a spectacle unfold before them. And yet, as Sarah turned, searching for my encouragement, a convoluted thought crossed my mind. The room twisted in kaleidoscopic colors of envy and love. I could no longer discern the line between the two. Part of me wanted to hide, to pull those darkness cloaks back around me. But another, stronger energy flickered, urging me to stand tall. As I took a deep breath and straightened my spine, a loud crash erupted from the kitchen, followed by a startled gasp. Everyone turned, eyes wide, as the faint sound of something shattering resonated through the air. My heart raced as I took a step toward the chaos, uncertainty gripping me. The spirit of hope that had briefly flickered dimmed as I realized what lay ahead could change everything. The chaos in the kitchen intensified, shouts mingling with the clatter of plates. It was as if the very foundations of our small gathering had started to unravel, and I felt shredded between my tether to Sarah and the alarming unknown that awaited us in the realm of scattered glass. Stay here, Martha whispered hurriedly, sensing my instincts to follow Sarah. But I couldn't remain a bystander any longer. Something deep within compelled me toward the noise, toward my daughter, whose laughter had lit up the room just moments ago and had now transformed into panic. As I crossed the threshold to the kitchen, the sight was jarring. A confused mix of voices and the smell of cake went out to battle with the guilty silence of broken crockery. The shattered remnants of a ceramic dish lay strewn across the floor, turning the scene into a chaotic mosaic. Sarah stood frozen in the center, the gleaming earrings still dangling from her left ear, their light dulled by the mess around her. I'm so sorry, she stammered, her face flushed with shame. I didn't mean to. It's fine. It's just a dumb dish, bristled Annette, her mother-in-law demeanor momentarily shattered. She was knelt down, hastily gathering shards with quaking hands, the tendons in her neck standing taut. "Let us just clean this up." I stepped forward, concerned and bewildered. "I'll help," I offered, my voice trembling with intent. With each shard I picked up, I could feel the pulse of anxiety radiating through the room. It wasn't just the broken dish that threatened to cut us. "I can't believe I messed up like this," Sarah whispered, her eyes darting toward me. In that moment we shared an understanding. I could see the guilt swelling like a tide behind her eyes. "I just wanted everyone to love what I chose," she murmured softly, almost inaudibly, as anxiety twisted the words. Annette's eyes shot up, irritation morphing into disbelief. "Sarah, these things happen. You're not a child anymore. How can you be so careless? Do you even care about this family?" The sharpness of Annette's words sliced through the tension, igniting something deep inside me. I could not let them drown Sarah's spirit further, not when the wind had just begun to ripple through the sails of our connection. "Annette," I interjected, the urgency bubbling within me, "it's just a dish. We've all broken things by accident. What matters is how we respond. Sarah is still here with us and she loves you all. Isn't that enough?" With my heart racing, I turned my gaze towards Sarah. "You made a mistake, but it doesn't define who you are. Your intentions were to celebrate, to bring joy to everyone, and that's what really counts." I tried to infuse warmth into my words, praying that they would land softly amidst the tempest. The words hung in the thick air like a fragile truce. Sarah met my gaze, wide-eyed and hopeful, as I saw a spark of gratitude flicker in her heart. But then the tension sharpened once more. As if drawn by some unseen force, Annette fixed her gaze upon the other earrings glistening against Sarah's cheek. "You made a big deal for her just to impress everyone else. I told you already how I feel about extravagance." Her tone dripped with disappointment, sending a tremor through the diner. "Look what it caused." "Stop." Sarah's voice rang out, unexpected and fierce amid the chaos, pushing back sharply against her mother-in-law's critique. "I just wanted to make it special." The fire within her flickered, a mixture of hurt and defiance, yet it was still a candle struggling against the encroaching winds. Time seemed to freeze like the moment a storm barrel overhead darkens the horizon. Something in me shifted, melding into the spiraling energy that enveloped the room. I saw countless feelings: regret, frustration, affection twisting within my family, and deep down I thought perhaps it wasn't just external chaos we were dealing with, but chaotic emotions simmering beneath the surface. Before anyone could respond, a loud clatter caught my attention. A figure stepped into view, a stranger, a woman with an apologetic expression, and an air of quiet authority. She was holding the remains of what seemed to be an unwrapped gift, one I hadn't noticed before. "I'm sorry, I hope I'm not interrupting," she began, hesitating as the eyes of the entire room settled upon her curiously. "What have you got there?" Annette queried, a flicker of irritation competing with curiosity in her gaze. The woman stepped forward, revealing the contents. This was intended for Sarah. A small gesture from the team at work. "We wanted to show our appreciation, but I didn't anticipate the chaos." She chuckled lightly, attempting to disarm the atmosphere. "It's a little something we thought might add to her special day." As she unveiled a product-filled session of luxury items arranged in shiny packaging and ribbons, an uneasy silence enveloped us. I could see Sarah's expression passing through myriad zones, from disbelief to cautious delight. The air cracked with possibilities, and all around me, I sensed change, shadows unfolding beneath the surface of the gathered family ties. I stole a glance at Martha, who nodded slightly, urging me to pay attention to how this moment could reshape the rest of our day. And that raw moment, emotions thick enough to cut feelings, surged through the room once again, and I realized that we were standing on the precipice of a severe transformation. I felt dizzy, anxious yet yearning. What could this intrusion mean? As the stranger began to speak, eager to clarify her intentions, a flicker of tension ignited once more in the collective heart of the room, lingering, waiting to lead us down an unexpected path. Burdened with hope and fear, I braced myself for the twists yet to come, where shadows danced dangerously close to light. The room buzzed with a strange energy, a mix of curiosity and apprehension, as the stranger presented the gift, a radiant bag that sparkled even under the dim kitchen light. Sarah's eyes dimmed momentarily, her hope teetering on the edge of despair. I could feel how her heart sank just a little further, as if the bag's brilliance highlighted not only the good intentions that had gone awry but also her own unworthiness. Wow, Sarah, you must be really loved at work, Martha said, trying to ease the tension that still hung thick in the air. There was a tiny warmth in her voice, an act of kindness amidst the chaos. I could see it, the way Martha's eyes softened towards Sarah, brushing away the earlier storm that threatened to drown us all. Yeah, right, Annette scoffed, arms crossed tightly, still reeling. More like they're trying to distract from the fact that they must think she can hardly do her job. Her words clattered around the space like the shards on the floor, cutting deep. It seemed that every time we tried to stitch together our family, the frayed edges would unravel anew. The stranger faltered at Annette's comment but quickly regained her composure, her cheeks flushed. Well, I should get going. I just thought something nice could bring a smile. You know? She said, a hint of confusion in her voice, turning back to Sarah. I sensed her reluctance to hold the beautiful bag, as if it were a decision wrapped in an expectation she wasn't sure she could fulfill. This is too much, she whispered, a barely perceptible tremor threading through her voice. I don't deserve it. Stop it. Annette snapped. Such self-pity. You accepted the promotion, didn't you? You'd better act like you belong instead of playing the martyr. Each jab pushed sharper, and I realized that the barrier between anger and indifference in Annette was fragile, easily shattered by vulnerability. She struck me then, with an intensity like a flash of summer lightning. This was more than just one dish, one bag, or one isolated family event. It was the reflection of our lives, of love distorted by expectations, each of us wrestling with our own sense of inadequacy, with our hands stained by our mistakes and hearts burdened by our fears. I heard the whisper of sadness in Sarah's voice as she turned to me, her eyes wide and searching for validation. What if they don't like me for who I am, Dad? What if it's just about what I can give them? Her question lingered between us, heavy and raw. Peanut, I coaxed, kneeling so I could meet her gaze. You're more than your job or any material thing. You've never needed to prove this family anything except that you love us, which, believe me, you do perfectly well. But my words hung, unanchored in the churning waters of a family landscape that seemed unwilling to accept that love can come in many forms, that worth isn't always defined by what we offer. Subtle connections tied us, yet we often severed them with our misunderstandings. I felt a tug on my sleeve and turned to see Martha, who was trying to catch my attention while stealthily nodding towards the stranger, who was now lingering in the background. She seemed to have something to say. With a small, humble smile, the woman stepped up, her presence looming amidst the rising tide of emotions. I didn't mean to intrude, she proclaimed again, her voice careful and measured. I can come back another time. Just wanted Sarah to know. She paused, weighing her words, that she's on the right path. We've seen her work hard. This is just an acknowledgement, not a burden. Sarah's eyes flickered with appreciation, but Annette's frown deepened, darkening the atmosphere. It's nothing but hollow rewards, she retorted sharply, unwilling to bend to vulnerability. You really think material things matter? A ripple sliced through the air, and an uneasy silence fell as we observed the growing fray. I could hear Sarah's heartbeat quickening, sensing the panic rise again. Mom, please, can we just let it go? She implored, her voice trembling. Let it go? Annette echoed incredulously, her voice stirring like the wind before a storm. How can you ask that when you can't even take responsibility for your own actions? This day was meant to be perfect, and it's you who ruined it. As the words assaulted Sarah, I felt as though my heart were cracking, splintering between a mother's fierce love and a daughter's shattered spirit. The chaos was far beyond broken dishes now. It was our family's fractured dynamic laid bare on jagged edges, those unspoken thoughts unstitching our bond. Before I could intervene, pain seeped into the heart of the room. Sarah took a step back, her face paling. I never wanted any of this, she whispered, a particular anguish lacing her tone. Not the bag, not the praises, just your approval. Just those words echoed, rippling like a pebble tossed into an endless sea, and suddenly, the walls around our fragile connection felt insurmountable. We stood amid a tempest more violent than any shattered glass, fraught with shattered expectations and lingering resentments. I could sense it, a weight heavy in the air. A revelation was brewing, danger orbiting us. Just then, an unexpected sound shook me from my thoughts, an ominous crack. I turned sharply, my heart racing just as the stranger's hand slipped forward, instinctively trying to prevent the inevitable. Time slowed as her foot stepped forward, caught slantwise on the edges of broken dish shards, sending her spiraling back. She tumbled, the radiant bag fumbling into the air, glittering fabric soaring like a comet, only to meet the floor with a bone-crushing thud. The room gasped collectively, and the vibrations felt like thunder echoing through my chest. Walls of expectations began closing in, shadows shifting threateningly. Yet a small warmth flickered, a possibility of hope still clung at the edges. But as the seconds ticked by, I realized we had all stumbled. Each one of us stood on the precipice of choice, decisions that would ripple through our family like the shattered remains of the only dish that tried to hold us together. The question now loomed large. Could we bear the weight of the truth hidden beneath the surface, or was it too late to mend what felt irreparably broken? The room was silent, the aftermath of the crash pulsing in the stillness. Sarah stood frozen, her wide eyes locked onto the kaleidoscope of fabric that lay sprawled across the floor among broken glass. It was a moment that stretched too thin, each heartbeat a hesitant step back into the fray of hurt. Sarah, I reached out, wanting to bridge the distance that felt like miles. But my voice was lost in the echo of Annette's outrage, rising like an unwelcome tide. "This is ridiculous," she shouted, her frustration morphing into fury. "You let it happen. You let her ruin everything." "Mom, please," Sarah's voice trembled, a plea wrapped in disbelief as she pointed at the falling remnants of what was meant to be a symbol of her hard work and resilience. "I didn't want this to happen. I just wanted to feel like I belong." 100 pieces of unspoken vulnerability floated unmanageably in the air around us. The stranger sat up, her cheeks reddening in embarrassment, beneath which I glimpsed a flicker of understanding. "I didn't mean to disrupt anything," she stammered, her eyes darting between us. "It's too late for excuses," Annette interrupted, her voice sharp like jagged glass. "You've broken this day. Do you see what you've done?" The tension crackled and everything about my wife felt heavy, burdened by resentment that twisted her face into a mask of disappointment. Even the stranger, who had only wanted to offer encouragement, lingered like a ghost in the background, unintended witness to our unraveling. I took a breath, feeling it lodged in my throat as I tried to navigate the tumult of our emotions. "Annette, this isn't just about the bag or the broken dish. Look at Sarah. She's just trying to what?" Annette growled, cutting me off. "To validate herself with material objects just like everyone else? She can't even see how this is all a distraction, is it?" I dared to say, feeling like I was stepping onto thin ice. "Maybe it's a distraction from how deeply we need to connect, how lost we've become in our own expectations." At the edge of my vision, Martha's gaze flickered urgently between us, her heart echoing without words. "We should be supporting each other," she interjected softly. "In times like this, we need to find a way through. We should talk about how we're feeling, enough with the feelings." Annette snapped, her frustration swelling like a tide crashing over all of us. "She has to learn that not everything is wrapped in shiny paper." The room held its breath, collectively shocked. I could see it on Sarah's face, hurt morphing into a deepening well of fear. "No, Mom," Sarah burst, her defenses igniting, but beneath the fire, I could see the flicker of a defeated heart. "I feel everything all the time. I just don't want to be the reason we all fall apart." Her voice cracked open, a raw wound laid bare. The stranger, meekly picking up the discarded bag, spoke with a newfound resolve. "I meant it as a compliment, not a burden. I wanted Sarah to know that her hard work deserves to be celebrated. It shouldn't be a shameful thing. We can all acknowledge each other without judgment." But Annette wasn't ready to yield. She's a child and children need boundaries. If we don't teach her that, she'll always expect validation from meaningless items. The volume of her voice climbed, frustration blossoming into something more dangerous. That word validation twisted in the air like venom. Memories rolled in with the tide, whispering of years past, of the countless times Annette received accolades, but always found a way to belittle herself along with everyone around her. And now it seemed those wounds formed walls, threatening to drown us in their depths. "Mom," Sarah whispered, her voice a mere thread, but her eyes burned deep with courage. "Could you just for once see me? Beyond work or a bag or anything else, just see me." And just like that, it hung between us, fragile and aching, the truth lingering behind layers of bitterness and pain. But I wouldn't let it go unrecognized. "Annette," I urged her softly, "what if we shifted the focus? Instead of pushing away, what if we embraced her for trying?" In the unsettled quiet, a shift occurred, tentative, fragile hope stirred like a whisper of wind. Just when I dared to believe we could move toward light, born out of the dark, I spotted the stranger's eyes slide toward the floor. The bag lay there, gleaming with possibility, and a sense of uncertainty clouded her. I think she began hesitantly, taking another breath. I think it's important that we find something that symbolizes not just work but family. If it's too much, I can manage it. I just wanted to show Sarah that sometimes we must stretch beyond our comfort zones. Her voice held that gentle, uplifting quality that I felt trembling in the air despite the chaos. But Annette's response came swift, a viper catching its prey. The last thing we need is distractions. This bag shouldn't even matter compared to our family. You're unrealistic if you think this brings anything but disappointment. And then a deep breath gathered strength beneath Sarah's brave facade. You think it doesn't matter? She challenged, her voice firming. You think it's just about a bag? But it's everything I've ever tried to be, a reflection of my worth. If you can't see that, then her voice wavered, punctuating the air like a breaking wave. The invisible thread that tied us began to tangle tighter, the atmosphere too heavy, until the doorbell rang unexpected and sharp like a lightning strike, keeping all eyes on the threshold. Hearts halted, breath caught. I felt my heart pummel against my chest. What now? What the hell? Annette muttered, bewildered, the moment suspended in an eerie stillness, and for a heartbeat, it seemed like we might all suspend our world's weight as we stood there, caught betwixt the crescendos of hurt and hope. I felt the doorway to revelation open, hinting that something even more complicated lurked just beyond the surface. We had yet to reach the fulcrum of decision or betrayal. Our endurance was about to be tested, and somehow, by whom or what awaited us could tilt the delicate balance entirely. The doorbell rang again, piercing through the tension like the chime of an unwanted alarm. In that breathless moment, all eyes strained toward the door, uncertainty clinging tightly to the air. Nobody dared to move, as if we were all rooted in the consequences of this day's decisions, waiting for something or someone to pull us into a new reality. Who could it be? Martha whispered, her brow knitted in worry as she glanced sideways at me. I could sense the question hanging over everyone. What storm had been unleashed? Annette's anger simmered beneath the surface, her lips pressed together in a tight line, something dark and unfathomable flickering in her eyes. It felt as if we were standing on a precipice, the faintest whiff of calamity brewing beyond our fragile moment. Maybe we should just ignore it, I said, hoping to diffuse the brewing friction in the room. We have enough going on right now. Sarah shifted, her wide eyes a blend of curiosity and trepidation, and I knew better than to shield her from what lay outside that door. With a deep breath, I moved toward the threshold, guided by an impulse stronger than fear. As I reached out for the handle, a sense of foreboding surged. I opened the door slowly, revealing a woman whom I scarcely recognized. Her features were sharp with resolve, her presence commanding yet uncertain, as if she were stepping into a tale woven of our lives unwittingly. Is this the place? She asked, her voice steady but her eyes flickering with an intensity that felt almost uncomfortable. I'm looking for Sarah. What do you want with her? Annette's voice rose, the edge of protectiveness slicing through her tone. I stepped aside, allowing the stranger to enter, confusion hanging in our collective silence. I'm a friend of a friend, the woman replied, hesitating. I know this is unexpected, but I heard about Sarah's project, and I wanted to help. She brushed past the threshold and into the chaos inside, her presence now demanding attention amidst the tempest of emotions. Help? Sarah echoed, hope mingling with confusion as she approached the woman. With what, exactly? I specialize in branding and promotions. I saw your amazing designs and thought you might want guidance on how to present them. This is an opportunity to show your work to a wider audience, she explained, her enthusiasm bubbling beneath the serious exterior. The room seemed to shift. A new energy spiraled around us. Annette's protective wings flared, casting shadows of doubt. What does that even mean? She snapped, ever the skeptic. Why should she trust you? This is outrageous. I caught Sarah's eye, her excitement battling the confusion cast by her mother's harsh attitude. I could see the flicker of hope igniting within her, battling against the tumult that had gripped us only moments before. Mom, please, Sarah implored softly, stepping toward the newcomer. Maybe this could be my chance? To show what I can do, rather than being defined by what I don't have? Defined? Annette spit the word as if it were poison. You think this is about what you have or don't have? You're talking about a dream that S built on someone else's idea of validation. Her eyes glinted sharp like daggers, ready to cut down any flicker of hope. That is not fair. Sarah shot back, her voice now with enough determination to shake the very floor beneath us. I just want a chance to prove I can stand on my own, to show my worth. Show your worth? Annette sighed, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of the world pressed down upon them. This is a setup for disappointment. And I let you walk into something that could ruin you. I stepped in, the line drawn clearly now between mother and daughter, both needing to be seen but trapped in a cycle of hurt. Annette, let us listen. If Sarah feels this strongly, we owe it to her to explore. We cannot stifle her aspirations because of our fears. Yeah, Mom. Martha chimed in, her voice a soft yet steady anchor amidst the storm. She deserves this chance. We need to support her, not pull her down just because we're scared of what could happen. The stranger held her ground, a calm amidst the eruption of emotions swirling within our confines. I'm not a predator, Mrs. I'm just here to help guide her, to give her the tools to navigate this world, she said, earnestness lacing her words. The stress in the room hung thick, but a flicker of encouragement broke through the suffocating darkness, small, yet remarkable. Sarah's determination was becoming a flame, illuminating the recesses of her mother's doubts. All right, Annette finally conceded, though her voice was steely. But mark my words, if this leads to heartbreak, I will not let you forget it. It's a dangerous game and you're the one who might pay the price. The door still stood ajar, allowing life to flow in alongside the complexities we faced. At that moment, the phone buzzed violently on the table, unexpected and jolting like a sudden spark. All eyes turned toward it, hearts racing once more, as a sense of disquietude filled the room again. Who could it be? What message might arrive to tilt the already tenuous balance we had painstakingly begun to create? As Sarah reached for the device, a sense of impeding revelation hung like a low-hanging storm cloud. The air turned electric, and I realized that whatever awaited us, a message of hope or a harbinger of chaos, could change everything we had just started to rebuild. In the moments that followed the unsettling buzz of the phone, I could feel the fracture lines running deeper through our fragile assembly. Sarah hesitated, her fingers hovering above the screen, uncertainty mingling with joy in an unpredictable dance. I could almost hear the thoughts ricocheting around the room, the hope of an opportunity colliding with the suffocating doubt cast by Annette. Just answer it, Sarah, I urged gently, wanting to bridge the gap that had yawned between mother and daughter. Whatever it is, we can face it together. Keeping her eyes locked on mine, Sarah nodded, steeling herself for whatever awaited her. She took a deep breath, her quick intake seemed almost audible, and swiped her finger across the screen, revealing a message that shifted the very air in the room. Oh, Sarah whispered, her voice barely a breath. The emotions cascading through her were palpable, a mixture of surprise thread with an undercurrent of anxiety. The light from her phone illuminated her face, painting her expression in shades of disbelief. The stranger moved closer, a glimmer of interest sparking in her eyes. What does it say? I leaned in as Sarah tilted the phone toward the rest of us. The message was from a prominent local gallery, and it pulsated with potent possibility. An invitation to showcase her work at an upcoming exhibition. It urged her to respond quickly, the warmth of opportunity thrumming in her veins. Yet, it was overshadowed by the weight of expectation. She could sense it too, the moment teetering on the precipice of joy and fear. Can you believe this? Sarah's voice broke in a mixture of awe and disbelief. They want to see my work. But as soon as the words left her lips, I could see the color drain from Annette's face, her suspicions resurrecting themselves like an unwelcome ghost. Exhibiting your work doesn't change anything, she snapped, angling her body as if preparing for another battle. You think just because a gallery is interested it means anything? Life isn't just about putting pretty pictures on walls. You don't understand, Sarah shot back, desperation losing patience. This is proof that someone believes in me, Mom. That I can do this despite everything that has happened. Then show them what? A half-hearted attempt? The tension in Annette's voice could cut through steel, and her eyes darted back to the stranger as if she were the root of all this disruption. You're just another distraction for her. She is right, Annette, I interjected boldly. For once, try to think of her success instead of assuming failure. The silence that followed was deafening. For a moment it felt as if time held its breath, suspended in the fragile moment between recognition and denial. The stranger shifted, attempting to offer a reassuring nod, yet even she seemed unsure how to bridge the growing divide. "We should celebrate," she said quietly, her voice steady as she turned to Sarah. "This is a big step and you need support. A team." In that moment, a flicker of warmth radiated from Sarah, her uncertainty momentarily quelled by the reassurance offered by the stranger. Still, anticipation simmered in the air, weighed down by Annette's fierce caution. Before I could draw another breath, the phone buzzed again, jolting us into attention. This time it wasn't just a message. It was a photo, a sleek, luxurious bag hung against a backdrop that looked all too familiar. The very same gallery that had invited Sarah. But there was more, the bright, shining reflection, revealing Sarah, cradled within the image, her artwork displayed proudly beside this beautiful accessory. "Mom! Look!" Sarah gasped, the warmth of hope igniting again in her eyes. "It's going to be in the exhibit. My designs are connected to this." In that moment I saw the vision Annette was trying to protect the most. It blended the lines of pride, vulnerability, and hurt. Whatever joy Sarah felt was threatened by the invasive veins of jealousy threading through Annette's heart. "Don't get carried away," Annette warned, her voice breaking slightly. "This isn't an invitation to take what I send to yours. You need to remember your worth." "Mom, this is my moment," Sarah cried out, frustration spiraling beneath her skin. "You keep telling me what I can't have, what I don't deserve. But maybe it's time I learned what I can. Can't you just be happy for me for once?" The room trembled at her words, and the charged air intensified as Annette's facade of control flickered, revealing a glimpse of something deeper, fear, perhaps, of losing Sarah to the world she had worked so hard to shield her from. But before she could respond, the doorbell rang again, a sound heavy with portent. Martha jumped at the sound, and the stranger took a step back, her demeanor suddenly shifting to apprehensive alertness. "Shouldn't someone answer that?" she asked, hesitating as anxiety seeped back into the room. "What if it's bad news?" Annette whispered, her voice laced with an undertone of dread. "Or maybe it's more good news," I offered, trying to channel the shifting tides of panic into something optimistic. But I felt my own heart race as uncertainty returned. With heavy steps I moved toward the door, where hope and dread intertwined once more, each knock echoing like a pulse of crisis, the weight of our unclaimed dreams pressing against the threshold. Opening the door would either reveal a ray of hope or a tempest that might shatter us all into shards, and I was left to ponder what revelation lay on the other side. As I pulled open the door, the cool air spilled into the room, carrying with it a gust of uncertainty that swirled around us like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. Standing there was a tall figure draped in an understated yet elegant coat, her expression etched with a resolve I found strangely unsettling. It took me a moment to recognize her, the gallery curator. Her name barely a whisper of familiarity, an advocate for talent, but also a harbinger of choices that could change everything. "Hello," she said, her voice smooth yet somehow laden with an unspoken weight. "I'm sorry to intrude. Is Sarah here?" "Why, yes," I stammered, caught off guard. "Come in." I stepped aside, allowing her entry, but my heart hammered like a prisoner desperate for release. Behind me, I could feel the tension ice over as Sarah and Annette exchanged glances that spoke volumes, each silently questioning the significance of this unexpected visit. "She's been invited to showcase her work," I stated, though even as I said it, the words felt inadequate to encapsulate the surreal reality swirling around us. The gallery curator's gaze slid towards Sarah, and the electricity in the room pulsed anew. "Congratulations," the curator said, smiling warmly. "I've seen some of your pieces and would love to discuss a few ideas about this exhibition." She gestured towards Sarah, and it was as if a spotlight had focused solely on my daughter, radiant, vulnerable, and awash in potential. However, I couldn't ignore the shadow creeping onto Annette's face, her lips pressed into a pinched line, a fragile bridge precariously close to crumbling under the weight of fear and resentment. "Please excuse us," she said abruptly, her voice taut. "Can we talk privately for a moment?" She reached for Sarah's arm, the gesture tugging at my heart. "Mom!" Sarah protested, the urgency in her voice cutting through the air as sharply as a knife. "I can't let this pass. This is my chance and I need your support." "You think you need to leap headfirst into this chance without considering the consequences?" Annette countered, her voice rising a notch, a mix of defensiveness and maternal instinct flaring to life. This could ruin you. The gallery curator stood at a distance, her presence an anchor that felt more threatening than reassuring. Sarah's brow furrowed, torn between loyalty to her mother and her own hopes flickering like a candle in the wind. I could almost hear the muffled crack of Annette's heart as she fought to shield her daughter from disappointment, yet I sensed it was already too late. The damage had been done. I want to be more than your shadow, Mom, Sarah cried out, tears welling in her eyes threatening to spill. For once I need you to trust me. Trust my talent. It's all I ever wanted, to make something of myself. Making something of yourself? Annette's voice hardened, tinged with disbelief. Is that what you think this is about? Keeping up with a frivolous dream? This isn't frivolous. It's my passion, Sarah shouted, her fury cascading into raw emotion, igniting a flicker of understanding I had never seen in Annette's eyes before. For just a brief moment, the facade of the mother and the mother-in-law cracked apart, leaving behind stark truths raw and pulsing. I took a step forward, feeling the need to diffuse the brewing storm. Let us sit down and talk about this, all of us. There's a way through this. We could even involve the curator, get her perspective on what this really means. But before I could gather my thoughts, before I could bridge the burgeoning divide, the curator took a step closer to Sarah, holding a sleek envelope, crisp, embossed, and undeniably significant. Sarah, she said, cutting through the mounting pressure in the room. This is the follow-up I was hoping I could discuss with you. The envelope gleamed under the soft light, a tangible representation of all that was at stake. With tentative hands, Sarah accepted it, her breath hitching, uncertainty flashing in her wide eyes. I sensed the blend of excitement and dread, that anticipation that comes just before something monumental tips the scales forever. I want you to understand, the curator continued, her tone careful, compassionate. This isn't just an exhibition. There are opportunities here, perhaps even more than you realize. But it requires commitment, and it might mean making some difficult choices. What kind of choices? Annette interjected, a protective instinct igniting within her once more. What are you trying to push her towards? Mom, please, Sarah implored, her voice breaking. I need to hear what she has to say. In that instant, the room was charged with anticipation, the air thick with the potency of dreams and haunting fears. I watched Sarah, realizing her battle was not just with her mother, but with a world that often saw art as trivial, as nothing more than a distraction from reality. As our eyes met, I felt a knot tighten in my throat, a mix of pride and sorrow, a painful reminder of the sacrifices we were each making in this tumultuous dance of love and ambition. And then it happened. The curator leaned in closer, her words icy yet reverberating with opportunity. Sarah, we want you to partake in a mentorship program as part of the exhibition. It pairs you with an industry leader to help you grow your talents. But you'd have to make a decision soon, and it could take you away from home for an extended period. The weight of her revelation hung in the air, a pendulum swinging between dreams and detachment. A part of me wanted to sweep Sarah into my arms, shielding her from the harshness of the world, whereas another part dared to hope for her future, a future that might pull her away from all we held dear. Sarah's eyes widened in disbelief, fueled by the uncertainty of a choice that could shatter our fragile foundation or build it anew. I realized this was merely the beginning of a turmoil I had never expected. And as the reality crashed down around us, echoing the weight of decisions that could ripple through our lives, I heard the unmistakable sound of further footsteps approaching, heralding even more complications, setting the stage for a climax I couldn't yet comprehend. The door swung open once more, letting in a sudden rush of cold air that seemed to bring with it a gust of unease, swirling through the room and creeping under my skin. I squinted into the hallway, recognizing the shadowy figure appearing at the threshold. It was Richard, my husband, his face a rigid mask etched with unreadable emotions. Is everything okay? He asked, stepping inside with the confidence of someone trying to walk on a tightrope suspended over uncertainty. Not exactly, I replied, my voice barely a whisper. The tension hung thick, clinging to us like fog. Richard's eyes darted between Sarah, the curator, and Annette, taking in the palpable fray of nerves filling the room. What's going on? He pressed, his brow knotting further, sensing the storm building. Sarah's been offered a mentorship for the exhibition, I explained, feeling the weight of the words push down on my chest as I spoke them aloud. But she'd have to leave, possibly for months. I see, he said carefully, his tone even, as if trying to shield himself from the brewing storm. Looking directly into his daughter's eyes, he added, "And what do you want, Sarah?" "I want this, Dad," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "I need this opportunity. I can't keep living in someone else's shadow." Annette exhaled sharply, her indignation barely masked. "You have to think this through, Sarah. What if this distracts you or worse, intensifies the burden? You won't be able to just walk back into our lives after chasing this dream." For a fleeting moment, I glanced at Richard, the memory of our own artistic pursuits flickering past us like a slideshow of what could have been, the risks we had taken, and the dreams we had ultimately set aside. However, something fragile seemed to break open in the silence of this moment, and it terrified me. I was losing my daughter to the spectrum of ambition, hanging precariously on the edge of a precipice between her future and the family values we cherished. "I understand you're worried, Mom," Sarah said, drawing a shaky breath. "But this is my chance to prove to everyone and to myself that I can do this." Her voice broke slightly, and I felt tears spring unbidden to my eyes. I was proud of her fire but scared to death of the potential fallout. Just then, Richard took a step forward, gently placing a hand on Sarah's shoulder, his warmth a balm against her unrest. "What do you need from us, Sarah? I don't want you to feel that you can't pursue your art because of family obligations. But we're family too, and we need to come together. If this is what you truly want, it is," she interrupted, determination flaring in her eyes. "Then we'll figure out a way to support you," he continued, his voice soothing the turbulence in the room. "For now, let us see what the curator has outlined for you in that envelope." The curator stepped forward again, offering a small, sincere smile, her confidence in Sarah reminiscent of the hope that sometimes flickers in the darkest of times. "If you decide to take this leap, it's about more than just having your work on display. It's about opening doors you barely knew existed." "Like what?" Annette jumped in, her tone hardened with skepticism, and I felt the tension spike again. "Exposure, networking, and guidance," the curator explained patiently. "You'll meet people who can help shape your future. It's not just art. It means having your voice heard." As the room filled with a blend of skepticism and cautious hope, the weight of the moment hung like a last-minute decision made before an act in a performance. Just then, Sarah opened the envelope slowly, the sound slicing through our uncertainties, and in that moment, the world outside stopped moving. "Who is this mentor?" she asked, the tremor of eagerness nestled between her words. The curator glanced down, and for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw something flicker within her, an almost reverent awe. "Her name is Isabella Lennox. She is a respected artist known for her avant-garde pieces, and has quite the standing in the community." "And?" Annette cut in, her voice sharp-edged, clearly disheartened by the potentially robust figure standing between her daughter and herself. "And she is also my mentor," the curator said quietly. "If you choose to accept, I'll walk you through that door, but it's not without consequence." With those words, the air shifted again, a palpable current sweeping through the space we occupied. I felt a rush of trepidation wash over me at the thought of Sarah being guided by someone who could easily become the new sculptor of my daughter's ambitions. I looked at Sarah, at the glimmer of recognition sparking in her eyes as she thought of what this could mean. I felt the burning need to protect her from what lay ahead, but was I being selfish? A voice inside urged me to step back for a moment and understand the desires beating in her heart. And then, as if summoned by the very thoughts racing through my mind, Richard suddenly said, "What if this leads to something bigger than art, Sarah? What if you excel and we lose you along the way?" "Dad, it's the risk I'm willing to take," she cried out, anguish lacing her voice. "But I can't do it without you all by my side." In the midst of this emotional tempest, the door suddenly rattled behind us, and before anyone could respond, it swung open. Standing at the threshold was a woman with striking features, a young woman whose expression mirrored the contentious brightness of our emotions, her hands gripping a large, ornate bag, transformed from mere accessory to a glaring symbol of something unspoken. She took a breath and uttered the words that shattered my heart. "Is this what my family has been reduced to? Material gifts to cover up the cracks?" I stared at the unexpected arrival, heart racing as she stepped inside, and my stomach twisted with foreboding because I recognized her. The status symbol she held was a 15,000 handbag, a deliberate contrast against the dish towel I had received last Christmas, and the realization hit me with the weight of an anchor dragging me down. In that moment of revelation, buried feelings and a tangled web of familial bonds unraveled before my eyes, igniting a split that I feared could never be healed. My heart dropped, the arrival of this woman seeming like a cruel twist of fate or a dark joke devised by the universe. She bore an uncanny resemblance to Sarah, her strength bursting from her frame like a wildfire. Yet there was an unmistakable sadness woven into her very being, an echo of the concerns I had hoarded for so long. The 15,000 bag was glimmering mockingly, embodying the very pain I thought I had escaped when I relinquished expectations of grandeur. "How did you find me?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling, eyes darting between this unexpected figure and the emotions swirling around us, an indecipherable recipe of dread, hope, disillusionment. I had wanted her to see what awaited beyond the walls of our home, but I hadn't prepared her for this jagged reality, the gravity of what family expectations could inflict. "Your gallery invitation went out to everyone," the woman began, her voice steady despite the storm crackling around us, including me. "I've long watched your journey." Her gaze softened towards Sarah, but internally, I wrestled with my own insecurities, wondering what the past might reveal about this stranger. "Then to what do we owe this visit?" Annette asked, a cold edge sharpening her tone. Behind her facade, I could sense her heart flickering like a candle dancing against a fierce wind, all fearful and protective of the one thing that made her world complete. "An exchange," she said simply, lifting the bag higher for understanding. "A way to bridge what loomed heavy over all of us." I clenched my jaw, aware that this wasn't just about the bag, but about the unclaimed depths of family ties and bonds frayed with envy and misunderstanding. Sarah stood there, a silent storm brewing, feeling the weight of peer pressure pushing against her, all while each adult in the room wrestled with tearing emotions and even fewer words that could stitch it back together. "You can't be serious," Annette said, disbelief washing over her. "You want to trade a material object for something that can't be contained? How can any of this resolve the hurt?" The woman steadied herself. "Because sometimes what we long for cannot be communicated through luxury, but rather through something more intangible, the love and support that we've let slip through our fingers all of this time." The sincerity in her voice was like a salve over a fresh wound. A window cracked open, letting fresh air seep into the stifling room, but perhaps also allowing darker clouds to roll in. "Who are you to decide what we need?" Annette hissed, her composure wavering as she grappled with the vulnerability she tried so hard to shield us from. But the woman persisted, her voice unwavering. "Someone who recognizes that materials fade, but raw feelings, those remnants of connection, linger far longer. Why must we all cling so tightly to the idea of the perfect gift, the shiny wrapping? It only creates voids." The air thickened, tension weaving between us, and I felt the weight of every unsaid thing anchor us, myself realizing the pieces of us that demanded acknowledgement had been overshadowed by jealousy and pride. "Isn't this what we've all been fighting for?" I finally interjected, my voice trembling with emotion but steadying as I looked at Sarah. "To find strength and identity in all that we are, not in the gifts we give or receive." "Mom and Dad," Sarah hesitated, glancing back and forth between us. "This moment us clinging to superficial gifts, always looking for validation, what if it doesn't have to be that way? What if this is an opportunity to reshape everything?" Her words hung in the air, echoing the realization that perhaps this confrontation wasn't merely about the bag or the display of love, but about rediscovering the roots of each relationship, mending the rips that had frayed across the fabric of our family. Breaths caught in throats as layers of hurt peeled back, revealing vulnerability beneath. "I never wanted to win a competition," Sarah continued, bravely voicing the raw fear that had simmered just below the surface. "Mom, Dad, I always just wanted you to be proud of me. To see me for who I am, not for what I can achieve or what I can give to others." The silence that followed her admission resonated painfully as Annette's defenses melted a bit more. "I'm sorry if I've made you feel that way," Annette said quietly, her voice shaking. "It's just that I never wanted to lose you. I've always feared that by encouraging you to chase dreams, I could push you away." "That feeling is shared," Sarah whispered, allowing a flicker of understanding to lampoon between them. Their moments of miscommunication began to uncoil like tightly wound strings. The atmosphere shifted, softened somewhat, and I could see the tendrils of connection once more entwining our hearts. "Let us not barter with illusions," the woman said softly, the bag still perched in her hand like a token of what had been an artifact of misunderstanding. "But let us approach one another with sincerity. Family is about showing who you are, not who you are expected to be. In that staggering moment, the room shifted as if the air itself radiated with warmth and hope, each of us stepping closer to bare our hearts, to face the tumultuous embers of vulnerability that made us whole rather than fractured. Sarah, if you want this, if it means rising above, then let us explore it together, I affirmed, holding her gaze defiantly, because your worth isn't rooted in what's material. It's deeply embedded in the love we share. And as those words settled like a deep breath filling the room, a sigh of relief coursed through me, mingling hope with acceptance. Annette's gaze found mine, and I nodded slightly. We had spent too long trapped within the facade of competition. Now it was time for empathy, healing, and being seen. I accept this opportunity, Sarah said softly, wiping the tears streaming down her cheeks. But on one condition: let us reimagine what we expect from each other. Let us embrace the imperfections. View this as a new beginning for all of us. The tension melted away, a shimmering thread of understanding now weaving amongst our fragile bonds. The woman's presence faded into significance, yet her offering remained a reminder that sometimes the most extraordinary gifts were not about possessions or lavish things, but about the unwavering connections we forged together, even through turbulence. And so, as our emotional warehouse finally began to reconstruct itself, we all took tentative steps toward healing, realizing the only way forward was to embrace our truths, to acknowledge our fears without casting shadows of shame. I cast my gaze around the room, inhaling the air heavy with transformation, discerning a few manifestations of joy beginning to flicker, and I knew deep in my heart that this was just the beginning of a deeper journey toward acceptance, love with no dish towel, nor fancy bag, just us. Let us rebuild together, I whispered, feeling the pulse of possibility igniting within me like a roaring flame, ready to face whatever came next. And yes, sometimes love can be found in the simplest of things: a touch, a shared thought, and the extraordinary journey of acceptance. After all, happiness often blooms from forgiveness, and as I watched the connections around me mend and take flight, I realized how deeply we had all grown that day. In the end, I knew the heart desires more than anything a place to belong together.